Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today we're diving into a really interesting one. A company right at the crossroads of, well, national security, green energy, and some pretty intense market speculation.
That's right. We are taking a close look at the operations and, maybe more importantly, the financial situation of USA Rare Earth. Look, there's huge interest here. You can't deny it. The strategic angle is massive. But the question we're really digging into today is pretty straightforward. Is USA Rare Earth actually a good buy right now?
Okay, let's unpack this then. The whole rare earth sector is definitely hot, partly because of, U.S. policy pushing for secure domestic supply chains. And this particular stock, it's been very active lately. It feels like a classic high-risk, high-reward play. But before we really get into the details, we want to hear from you listening. If you find this kind of analysis helpful, please hit that subscribe button, give us a like. And hey, if there's a specific company you want us to tackle in the future, just drop a comment below. We do read them.
Yeah, absolutely. Analyzing USA Rare Earth, it's like you need two different lenses almost. There's the national policy discussion, the strategic importance, and then there's the, let's be honest, the pretty brutal financial reality. We've got to look past just the market buzz and ground ourselves in what this company actually is today.
Totally agree. So at its heart, what are they doing? Mining and processing rare earths, but specifically within the U.S.
Exactly. That puts them right into that critical minerals category. Huge strategic value for things like defense, high-tech manufacturing. It's basically an American player trying to build a foothold in a market dominated elsewhere.
And their main focus, the key asset, is the Round Top Mountain project down in Texas.
That's the one. And it's not just, digging up any old dirt. The minerals they're claiming to have there are really significant. We're talking neodymium, dysprosium, terbium, vital for high-strength magnets, plus other critical stuff like gallium, beryllium, even lithium. These are the ingredients for, well, everything from advanced jets to EV batteries.
So the potential asset sounds top tier. But the industry itself? You said it's brutal. This isn't like launching an app, is it?
Oh, far from it. This is heavy industry, pure and simple. What's really defining about the rare earth sector is the immense cost upfront. The capital expenditure, or CapEx, is just massive. Think about it, building sophisticated mines, complex refineries. It takes years, huge environmental hurdles, enormous sums of money you have to spend long before you see any revenue.
And the competition just makes that risk even higher, I imagine. Sounds kind of terrifying, actually.
It is. Your main competitor isn't just another company. It's often state-backed entities. Global supply chains, pricing power, even political leverage. It's heavily dominated by Chinese producers. So when a company like USA Rare Earth is trying to fund a multi-billion-dollar project that takes years, the risk that a dominant player could shift prices or policies hangs over everything. It's not purely commercial, it's deeply geopolitical too.
Okay, that really sets the scene. We have this vital sector, potentially a very valuable asset, but now we need to face the music on the company's current financials. Let's get into the fundamentals, because this is where that excitement about policy maybe hits a wall with the balance sheet.
Right, and the absolute number one thing any potential investor needs to grasp is this. They're pre-revenue. USA Rare Earth is still in the development stage. For the last 12 months, reported operating revenue was zero. Zip.
And no revenue means, well, they're burning through cash like nobody's business. We could probably put some numbers on that. The net loss trailing 12 months, it was a hefty negative $107.51 million, which works out to an EPS loss of about negative $1.72 per share.
And that right there tells you just can't use the normal toolkit for evaluating this stock. Forget price-to-earnings ratios, PE. You can't calculate it when earnings are negative. What you're looking at here is purely a speculative development play.
That lack of income means they're completely reliant on outside funding for every shovel in the ground at Round Top, right? Which brings us back to dilution risk.
Precisely. It's a high-wire act of financing dependency. The source material clearly shows this ongoing, pretty worrying cash drain. Free cash flow. Cash from operations both negative across all the forecasts we see right through August 2025. This isn't some short-term blip. The company is fundamentally burning cash and isn't profitable.
And looking ahead, even the analysts who usually try to model for success, they're still projecting significant losses, aren't they?
They are. Even connecting this to the bigger picture, the forecasts show losses continuing. Maybe negative $37 million in 2026, then negative $17 million in 2027. So yeah, the losses might shrink eventually years out, but the red ink is still very much there. It just confirms that the execution risk, the financing risk, it's front and center for the foreseeable future. They're basically racing against the clock.
A race to turn on the production taps before the funding runs out.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so if the fundamentals are, let's say, screaming red flags, no revenue, big losses, what on earth is the market actually trading on right now? Let's switch gears to the momentum, because despite all that, the stock has been really active.
It certainly has, and this is where that speculative interest really kicks in. The stock jumped, what was it, 12.23% over just the last 2 weeks. That shows some strong positive momentum, likely driven by news flow and shorter-term trading.
Yeah, the big catalyst seemed to be that announcement on September 25th, 2025. That caused a nearly 13% surge in one day. That news must have given the market something tangible.
Exactly. They announced several agreements, MOUs, JDAs with some recognized names, Enduro, Moog, Polar Star. These partnerships are key because they start to validate a future market for USA rare earths materials. They're targeting high-value areas. Aerospace magnets, pipeline tech, data center cooling. It signaled to the market, hey, potential buyers are lining up.
And I bet that rally was also fueled by getting some much-needed cash in the door.
Absolutely. Investors reacted very positively to that $75 million PIPE financing private investment in public equity. That's a significant vote of confidence. And they also pointed to having a $128.1 million cash reserve, which sounds pretty strong.
But, yeah, we have to balance that cash reserve against how fast they're spending, right? Didn't they report a huge loss just in Q2?
You got it. That's the crucial context. A massive $142.7 million net loss in Q2 alone. So yes, they got fresh cash, which is good, but the burn rate suggests that $128 million isn't a comfort blanket. It's a necessary bridge to keep things going.
Okay, what about actual operational progress? Milestones matter, too. They're giving a date for optimism, aren't they?
Yes, they are. The company is forecasting commercial production starting at their Oklahoma magnet facility in early 2026. Hitting that target is, well, absolutely critical for the whole story to hold together long term.
And that timeline leads us straight into what investors should be watching out for in the near term. Potential volatility triggers, right?
Exactly. There are 3 key dates coming up pretty soon that could really make this stock jump around.
Okay, what are they?
First up, Q3 2025 earnings release slated for October 20th. All eyes will be on project updates and, crucially, any change in that cash burn rate, not revenue, obviously. Second, November 7th brings an ETF rebalancing review. That could mean fresh volatility if major index funds adjust their holdings. And finally, December 20th, they've flagged a Q4 production milestone announcement. That'll be the market's big check-in on whether they're actually on track for that early 2026 start in Oklahoma.
Wow, okay, that sounds like a real roadmap for speculation in the coming months. Let's look at the technical chart picture now and just the general high-risk feel here. The price was around $16.66 in late September.
Yeah, and the volatility is just wild. It really hammers home that this is a trader stock right now. Over the last year, 52 weeks, it swung between $5.56 and $20. That's a huge range. We're talking average daily price swings of like 5 to 7%.
So the fundamentals paint one rather grim picture, but the charts are telling a different story, or maybe a more complicated one.
Definitely more complicated. The stock is trading above its 50-day simple moving average, which was around $14.56. That's typically a positive short-term signal.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, on those charts. The signals seem to be fighting each other.
They really are. You've got conflicting messages everywhere. The MACD indicator, moving average divergence, that's actually flashing a short-term buy signal, suggesting some upward momentum might continue. But the broader moving averages, both short and long-term, are generally bearish. The longer trends are still pointing downwards, and the Bollinger Bands are super wide, which screams high volatility.
And yet, sentiment on trading platforms is often tagged as bullish.
It is, which is fascinating. But then you contrast that with the broader market mood measured by the Fear and Greed Index, which is sitting down in the fear zone at 39 out of 100. So bullish stock sentiment in a fearful market.
This raises an important question. Who is buying? And what are they choosing to ignore or focus on? This contradiction seems perfectly captured by the analyst ratings, too. The consensus is what? Strong buy.
Right. Oh, resounding strong buy, yeah.
But, and this is the part that makes you scratch your head, the average price target from those same analysts is $16, which is actually below where the stock was trading at $16.66. How does that even work? How can Wall Street rated a strong buy, but simultaneously suggest it's already overvalued based on their own price targets.
It's a major disconnect, isn't it? It sends such a mixed signal. It suggests they love the long-term story, they love the strategic asset, but they also acknowledge the price has probably run ahead of their current risk-adjusted models. My read is perhaps they're rating the policy potential and the strategic dream more heavily than the current messy financial reality.
Okay, let's try to pull all this together. We've got this huge strategic potential crashing head-on into some, frankly, awful fundamental numbers. We need to hammer home the core risks for anyone even thinking about touching this stock.
Absolutely. The biggest dangers are rooted in the financials. That negative cash flow, the complete lack of revenue, the ongoing big losses. Until Round Top actually starts producing and selling material, the execution risk is just incredibly high. And that massive capex need means there's always the looming threat of dilution, needing to sell more stock in the future just to keep funding operations.
And the risks aren't just internal on the balance sheet.
No, not at all. The geopolitical risks are huge here, too. The rare earth market is incredibly sensitive to policy shifts. We talked about the Chinese dominance that creates a constant risk. They could suppress prices or change export rules in ways that could seriously hurt USAR's economics before they even get off the ground. Commodity price swings here aren't just about supply and demand. They're tied directly to those global political tensions.
So it's a real clash between national interest and basic accounting, it seems.
Yeah.
We did assign an overall rating to this stock based on all this information. What was the thinking behind that final score?
Yeah, the overall rating came out as highly cautious, just 3 out of 10. Look, the positives are real and significant. You've got sector tailwinds from policy, a strategically vital asset for the U.S., and that bullish analyst sentiment, for what it's worth. But those high-level hopes are just overwhelmed right now by the negatives. Zero proven revenue, those persistent large losses, huge uncertainty around execution, and the very real risk of shareholders getting diluted.
So what does this all mean? We started off asking, is USA Rare Earth a good time to buy now? What's the verdict?
Based purely on the financial evidence we have today and the incredibly speculative nature of this stock, the conclusion from the analysis is pretty stark. This is only suitable for traders comfortable with very high risk, probably operating on short time frames and using strict risk management, like stop losses. It fundamentally lacks the stability, the proven track record that you'd want for a sound long-term investment at this point in time. The volatility is the trade for some, but the underlying financial risk is the steep price of admission.
Okay, that's a very clear take on the investment horizon. But maybe let's leave our listeners with one final thought to chew on, something that connects us back to that bigger picture.
Yeah, here's something interesting to consider. We know the U.S. government is intensely focused on securing domestic rare earth supplies. It's seen as a defense necessity, right? So the question becomes, how much of that financial risk we just detailed does a pre-revenue company like USA Rare Earth actually have to bear on its own? When we rated a 310, that's based on today's balance sheet risk. But if the strategic imperative is truly that high, could government policy, maybe big defense contracts, potentially de-risk their path to production much faster or more heavily than normal market forces ever would? It's that tension between urgent national policy needs and shaky fundamental viability that really defines this stock's unique and frankly quite precarious position right now.